And we already have our next speaker with us today. He was already previously announced by his co-worker from Deutsche Bahn earlier today. We have Carsten Fritsch. He will be talking about sustainable data mesh transformation at Deutsche Bahn. You work as a lead architect for the Data Intelligence Center in the department of the Chief Digital Officer at the Deutsche Bahn Group, and you are leading the DB's efforts to follow the data mesh technology. And what that's all about and what you're doing at Deutsche Bahn is what we'll hear in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the kind introduction. Hi, everybody. I'm here to talk about data mesh at Deutsche Bahn and how we initialize the sustainable transformation for our data management. I'm Carsten Fritsch, as you already told. I'm a lead architect in the group management of Deutsche Bahn. In the CO department, we're the Data Intelligence Center in the House of Data. My physicist was roughly 7 years of commercial big data experience, mainly as an enterprise and solution architect. So, House of Data. Our mission as a House of Data is to make data available in Deutsche Bahn, as Stefan Kaubach already told before. We are structured into 3 streams: data governance, data architecture, and data cataloging. Data governance is concerned, or the objective is to define regulation and policies for data-related issues. And they're currently working on policy framework for data governance, as well as setting up the corresponding data organizations. Data architecture, we're concerned with creating a uniform access to group data, and currently building a data management platform and design data products. And last but not least, the House of Data is hosting the Deutsche Bahn Group Central Data Catalog, and the clear objective to have a transparency into our existing data. And here we're currently building up connections to data sources, collecting metadata, and increasing metadata quality in the process. When we first had a look at data mesh, we found a holistic paradigm of how to develop your data management in the future, and which is best described by these 4 principles, like the domain-oriented decentralized data ownership and architecture, which for us means that we enable teams to have end-to-end responsibility about the data product they provide. Data as a product is the other key principle, which changes the perspective from requesting data from somebody to providing your data about your process, and makes the data provider, give them the power to think about their consumers. These 2 principles are supported by the second row of principles. So to do this, we need self-service data infrastructures as platforms, which gives you the possibility to provision infrastructure with minutes and be fast in your development. And to bind all this together, we see this federated computational governance principle as giving guidance to teams without restricting them, and fueling this all together into one direction. So what is this for Deutsche Bahn? Why is this important for us? I'll give you 5 reasons why data mesh is interesting to us. We are a group of companies, very different companies, functionally decomposed. For example, we have regional passenger rail, long-distance passenger rail as a company. We have infrastructure operations as a different company. So these are already different organizations, and keeping this decentralized approach is very probably right fit for our organization. As many other organizations, we have a shortage on data engineering skills. There are too little data engineers around. And our objective is then to make the data engineers working for us as effective as possible. So the self-service infrastructural platform seemed like a good idea for that. As we said, we're a distributed company, and they have to working as one. We already have a strong culture of collaborative decision-making. And this is where we see the link to the federated computational governance, to working together as a group of people to make decisions. we see in our data demand a steep increase in cross-business unit data demand, mainly fueled by the introduction of integrated processes across business lines. So when we would rewire the data producers to think about offering their data as a product, then this data would be available for another business line to access. So this is why this data as a product principle is very interesting for us. And last but not least, we want to decrease time to market for data and AI products, and having data products to build AI products on top of them is probably a good idea for that. So in my mind, how would we start such a data mesh transformation in a world of locally centralized data? And I think I would have 3 ideas on top of my mind. We could start with top-down governance, and by the tower invested in us as a governance organization, we declare everybody needs to follow data mesh from now on. That will probably not work because we can't be everywhere, and we can't be like Sauron's eye and look how everybody is doing. And to have this self-sustained, people need to believe that they're doing the right thing. So if you have a strong regulation from the central group governments, they will just talk through every nitty detail, and finally it will fail. Another way to do this would be to build a central platform, and we would be ignoring for a moment that data mesh isn't a technological solution, but sociotechnological. But if you build a technical platform, this will cost us a lot of money and time. And during that time we build that platform, the perfect data mesh platform, people will have found other solutions. They'll build solutions for their problems. And once we're done with the platform, why should they come join our platform? Because they already have a solution for their problem. So the only way I see to start a revolution is to enable a grassroots movement. We need to identify the current issues in a data project, offer data mesh methods as a solution within the project to address them. And in the process, we might build small tools or small platform services, which are then, again, available within the rest of an organization, and also build the storyline for how data mesh help using this, help them with this data product. To summarize this approach, I stole from the lean startup movement, the build, measure, learn loop, to summarize everything. So we start building and implementing a real data use case with data mesh methods. To observe would mean a startup would go out and say, observe how their product does. Our product is this approach, and our environment is our IT ecosystem. So what we need to observe is how the approach works within our ecosystem. And we do this by looking at how we do this implementation. And finally, we need to learn from this. We take the challenges we identified during the implementation, view them with the lens of data mesh, and then find recommendations what to do next and what we should do. And there's a feedback loop. We go on again. Next step is to do this again, build the next thing, measure again, learn again. And this is how we start a sustainable transformation towards a data mesh. What I brought to today is our journey with building the first data product at Deutsche Bahn. We're in the vicinity of the DB Netz group, which operates and owns the majority of the German railway system. And part of this are tunnels, important, heavy asset, hard to maintain. And our use case is very simple to document the railway tunnel inspections. Currently, these inspections are done by inspectors. They go into the tunnel, make photos, write a report, and then later on, these reports are used to decide which tunnel to repair when. Our use case collects this data together of these images and makes the sharing of these tunnel photos more easy by having a central platform for tunnel images. And the data product are these images of problems in the tunnel, like cracks in the concrete and similar things, which can then be used later on for an analytics on top of this, like predicting how this crack will grow in the future and things like that. So it's the source-aligned data product, which gives you insight into the business process and how this business process goes along. And we will have later analytics as a possibility on top. So what did we learn? First thing we found during the implementation is that we were building much more things than just the core data product. We are building quality monitoring, observability, access management, all these toolings which within one ecosystem everybody will have to build them on their own. They're not hard to build, but they're exchangeable, and they make the product team less efficient because they need to work on these tools and not on their core data product. So one of the questions we had, like, why do we need to build these toolings as a data product team? And the recommendation we did from there is to establish technical governance toolings. What do I mean by that? Standards for automated data monitoring, observability, where teams can build on top of templates for using the data lineaging and data versioning tools available within the company. So even less experienced teams can use these topics. And automated role and access management, probably connected to Deutsche Bahn's identity management, will help these data product owners to offer their product as a secure data product with good access management. So this all fuels into three of these four principles. One of them, data product, having a secure and stable data product. We understand from this how self-serve data platforms should be composed. And we also see how the standards for automated data monitoring observability, if we get standards in that area, we can use this for the computational part of this federated computational governance. As soon as we have standards in the area of monitoring observability, the central platforms can act onto things which these monitoring tools detect. Only then, because if everybody uses different monitoring tools, we cannot have this automation in this area. I have a second observation for you. Our planned architecture was very simple, like the one on the left, where data in, data out, processing in the middle. What we built was this spaghetti on the right-hand side. And we built this because getting infrastructure in an enterprise setting is very complicated, because you have, especially if you want to configure your infrastructure, you oftentimes have to write tickets to the operations team. You need to wait for them to implement a change on your bucket. If you have a different access policy, for example, and this takes a lot of time. And the only way we found around there was, because we had a very short time frame of 10 weeks, I think, was to request only one part of infrastructure, a Kubernetes cluster, and build everything in there ourselves. So we built our messaging system, we built our web servers into this infrastructure, and we regained the access and total control over our own infrastructure by this. And this enabled us to be then very fast in the implementation of our data product. But that's not really a solution, everybody getting their own Kubernetes cluster and doing shadow IT, basically. So the question I take away from this observation is, how do we get control over the infrastructure that we need to build data products? And it's a very obvious recommendation to eliminate technical and organizational bottlenecks. But what do we mean by that? Is that we need to enable access to data management cloud services within minutes. Minutes in terms of we need interactive iterations for the development process. And we make the development process much more secure by embracing continuous delivery on a broader scale. And we can increase release frequency with easy-to-use platforms. And these kind of platforms need to have the developer as their user in the center. So they would need to come with things like example tooling, templates, maybe even a quick start data product which I can then transform into my own data product. This enables the ownership, the decentralized ownership of the first data mesh principle by enabling the teams to have the ownership and to also to work fast with their data. And it tells you again, how do you build your infrastructure platform. Just to summarize, what did we do and show you the way ahead. We discovered data mesh, we built that tunnel application. I showed you also a bit how we analyzed it, get the recommendations, and then we decided to focus on providing the technical governance tooling. Right now, we're back at the build phase. We are currently building a data quality monitoring service, small service, will be available within the company for any team which wants to monitor their own data for quality. And that's just the first step, and then it goes on. So, summary, I showed you why data mesh is interesting for Deutsche Bahn, 5 reasons why. We have this small, lean transformation approach we follow, and the recommendation, showed you 2 example recommendations we got out of that. Establish technical governance tooling and eliminate technical and organizational bottlenecks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carsten. We have around 5 minutes left, so if there are any questions from the audience about your talk, about in general what you do at Deutsche Bahn, feel free to raise your hands. There is one question. David, if you want to walk around and please kindly introduce yourself and the company you're representing.
Hi, I'm Dominic from E.ON, and I was wondering whether during your project you encountered any issues on a human or a cultural level for the collaboration within the group, like people being reluctant to work together with people from other companies, or being reluctant to share data, and these sort of problems, and how you overcame them.
Yeah. I think we got a bit of a reluctance from data owners to share their data, so the tunnel inspectors. Though this was a pilot project and we aimed to get these results of understanding our own ecosystem. So what we did is we drastically selected who we worked with, which inspector was sharing this data. So in the end, we worked, I think, from the 50-something inspectors there are, we worked with 5 or 3 people. They explained us how how they want to share their data, and they were pretty supportive. We had trouble with the infrastructure, as I mentioned. The infrastructural teams were very used to be the total owner of the services they provide. As you can see, like I said, we went towards a completely different technological solution. We essentially hit a roadblock there. With people very used to provide only infrastructure where they have full control of the service level agreements. One of the consequences of that is that we need to embrace a more user-centric perspective on the data management platform we're building. So that's one of the learnings out of this, that the people providing infrastructure will need to think much more about who's using that infrastructure, having that developer in mind, and maybe helping him example coding and things like that. I think that's the way forward for this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking your question. Is there any other question? I see the lady in the front.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Carla Schulte-Fischedick, Networker for a Sustainable Future. I would like to know in which kind your work could help to tackle the urgent problems we have right now, climate change, biodiversity. In your title was sustainable, so I had some hope, but I didn't got it in your speech. Yeah. Thanks.
The sustainable is about the sustainability of the transformation momentum. Nevertheless, there are sustainable products built on top of this. And for example, you can listen to Nina Stumme in the afternoon. She'll talk about the DataNet platform from DB Netze and some use cases also around Artenschutz. Sorry, I'm not prepared for that word. This is the same technological platform, and I think what we're doing here, and I'm very proud of this, that we support support people building very good or simple data use cases, sustainable data use cases on top of the technology.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the question, and thank you, Carsten, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.